she did both. Oh, here you go.
You- How are we doing?
Good.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, hello. Okay. Everybody hear me? See me?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
where are you today?
Oh, today I'm actually in a restaurant. I
You're
just
like,
definitely a
where's
weird place
Waldo?
to be doing a class, but
Where's Waldo Rabbi?
yes, where's the rabbi? Where in the world is the rabbi now? But thing is that I was had a hectic morning. Today's the day. Obviously, I drive the bus, but they started earlier because we had a yard site. Somebody in the show came in the show. Then I hopped onto the bus. Then took my son to interview for his kindergarten class. It's very important stuff.
Oh
So
my God.
Salmi according to me. Then I had to drive him all the way to where his camp, i.e., our camp, the Ganesi of Bethesda, was having their trip. Then drive all the way back to Bethesda, to Baltimore. And so this is I was feeling a little bit hungry and went to the class uh, in a more settled state. What's called not fasting.
Nice.
Today's not a fast day. We have a fast day coming up.
Yeah.
So
So
cheers, everybody. L'chaim.
what's the kosher
What's the name of the
restaurant scene
restaurant?
in Baltimore?
I should do a food review, as this is what all the popular kids are doing. They do food reviews.
They do
Right?
reviews of everything.
But what's
Oh,
the name
actually,
of it?
say again.
What's the name of it?
This is Tom Thai in Baltimore. It's Thai
Whoa.
food, kosher Thai food. And it's actually quite tasty. Having a pad Thai, they have a lunch special, which is so you get
This
Thai,
is great,
you
and
get
we're recording
pad
it for the
Thai,
ages. Yeah.
and yeah, this is all being recorded, and an egg roll, and rice, and a place to give a class, all for under $20. So there you
Wow.
go.
Wow. Very good.
So you may see me every once in a while do that, and hopefully though I will be polite and not really talk to my mouth full. But
Devon.
anyways. There's a rule that the first person who answers a phone call during the time at the restaurant has to pay the bill. You know this move? Everybody has to
No.
put their phones in. So I guess I'm answering all of you. So I guess I'm gonna have to pay my bill. Oh well. Okay. I want to talk about obviously something uh, that will link a little bit for those that have been attending the JLI class, who've been kind of spending a lot of time with talking about the founding fathers and the revolution and the Jewish roots of it. And so we're going to do something interesting. We were talking about how Judaism informed the revolution. Today, maybe we'll talk about something of the revolution that informs, gives us a little bit more insight to this week's parsha. A point that we talked about in the past, but I think worth bringing up, highlighting or contrasting that with kind of common modern sentiments that you have in regards to a different approach and how we see from the revolution that Moshe's approach is better. So we talked about it. So this is not going to be new. We may have heard this before, unless this is the first time you've been with us as we've gone through the book of Devarim, but we're starting a new book of the Torah. And to preface it, Moshe Rabbeinu is here at the end of his life. There's no more traveling. There's no more traveling. There's nothing more to see. And to a certain degree, there's really nothing more to do. There's no wars to fight. In fact, there was a remarkable in the end of the last book of the Torah that we did, the Bamidbar, Moshe is instructed by God to fight a certain war, right? And after that war, it says you will fight this word v'achar nikom nikrimat Hashem b'midyan v'achar te'asef alamecha. Says you'll fight this war. You'll take God's vengeance on Midian, and afterwards you will pass on. This will be the last kind of thing you do in office, as it were, right? And Moshe now knows that after that Well, upon conclusion of that will be the clock will then be ticking to his passing. You would think, and commentaries immediately take note of this, that Moshe might shuffle his feet a little bit, right? In this, can you imagine? It's like the old joke. This is
Slow
a
walk.
fellow
It's
said,
called slow walk.
yeah, slow walking. This is right, That there's a certain fellow is in prison, and they asked him what he would like for his last meal. He says, "I just want a glass of wine." I'm like, "Okay, fine, sure. What vintage?" He says, "I would like to have it 2038." Right, right.
Right.
Moshe he's being told that he's not going to pass on until he fights Midian. So maybe delays, War Powers Act, stuff, logistics, whatever. And he can't really get it going. No, but he does it with the same alacrity that he filled every one of God's commands, which speaks to this is his Avram moment, right? God tells him, do this thing, and Avram wakes up early to go do the Akedah. Moshe also is being told that this is his final act, and he does it with alacrity because his focus is on God's mission and his will for him over what it is, over his own self-interest. And that's obviously one of the things that makes Moshe great. He executes this war successfully. And now the Jewish people are in the plains of Moab, looking over the Jordan River into the land of Israel. This is it. They're there. They're on the doorstep. And Moshe knows this is the end of his life. He is passing away here. And he does have one last thing to do. And that last thing to do is to instruct his children. Now, we've talked about this. This is an end of an era, right? And then when you get to the end of any kind of thing, end of a summer camp, or you get end of a school year, you get to the end of a retreat, whatever it is, and there's always the highlight reel, right? Collection of clips, the recap, right? And you're going to show all the best stuff. And we know that Moshe goes in the opposite direction. He doesn't create a collection and a recap of all the highlights, all the places. He says, guys, let's wax nostalgic and think back to all the good times we've had over the past 40 years. Right? And spends 30 days sitting there and recapping all the good times. Right? Because he wants to inspire them and he wants to make them feel good. He wants to make them feel up to the challenge and empower them, et cetera, et cetera. No, we actually see the opposite. Moshe is going to embark over the next few Torah portions. He's going to recap, but he's going to recap the failure. Now, here's the thing. It's not like they were failures, that generation. They were an amazing generation that achieved amazing things, that made amazing leaps of faith. This was the generation that followed God into the desert. Well, start even earlier in Egypt, right? This was the nation that of a people that never forsook God even after 210 years of slavery. This was a generation that when God said, take the deity of your overlords, right, and bring them into your house, and when your overlords will ask you what you're doing, you'll tell them that you're going to slaughter their God to your God. And do so confidently. And they did this. And then God said, follow me into the desert and don't even think about packing a lunch. And they did that. And then God says, jump into a sea. And they did that. And then God says, I have a whole bunch of lists and rules, right? And we said, yeah, well, let me have my lawyer take a look at it. We'll redline it. We'll come back to you with our things, and then you'll come and we'll discuss. Rather, Nasav Nishmari. Right? And so on and so forth. And they made mistakes. Well, go ahead, Paula.
Who is the they?
They is the generation of the desert.
But who is he speaking? Okay,
good.
Quiet. I'll stop. Okay.
So, and then they made mistakes, but they learned from their mistakes. They course corrected pretty quickly. This was a very good generation to the point where they've earned the moniker throughout the generations as the Dor Deya, the generation of understanding. and to a certain degree, in many ways, the greatest generation that existed, to the point where it says when Mashiach comes, the generation that will be on the cusp of entering Mashiach will be a reincarnation of the generation that left Egypt. In other words, the generation, our generation. In other words, we're talking about ourselves here. These are our souls. Because as the Rabbi said, this is the generation that will leave this last exile. And so there's the same reincarnation of the souls of the generation that left that original exile. So Moshe comes and has plenty to talk about. He could have mentioned all those moments and really left the generation feeling good about themselves and empowered and confident. And what does Moshe do instead? He takes them to task.
Rebuke.
Right. He really lays it on quite thick. And he talks about each of their failures. And he lays it out comprehensively. He says, this is what you said, and this is what we responded, and this is what you did, and et cetera, et cetera. Oh, and it wasn't just that, there was another one, and so and so. Is Moshe that bitter? Is Moshe that bitter? Is he bitter is it maybe because he believes they sabotaged him, right? That he was supposed to enter into the land, but it was because he was dealing with them and he lost his patience with them and he hit the rock that caused him. So he's finally says, you know, guys, at the end of life, I'm going to let you have it. Right? Or obviously, Moshe is a different kind of person than that. Moshe is Rabbeinu. And in a certain way, even the Avot don't come to Moshe Rabbeinu's level. The Avdi Moshe, God says, God offers a eulogy for Moshe, right? That there's never been anybody like Moshe. And we know this. We, the Jewish people, know this and recognize this. So how do we square this? So let me take you many, 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 many years into the future. 2,330 years into the future. Yeah, pretty close. 20 years. Yep. The year 1778. Winter. 1778. Valley Forge. And the Continental Army, after having some pretty remarkable victories at the beginning of the war, that kind of said that affirmed for both the Continental Army and the British that, hey, we might be able to do this, right? And the British are like, hey, they might be able to do this. Like, what's going on here, right? Well, battles, famously, there was some failures, but there was some tremendous successes. War, the battle of Ticonderoga, etc. And all of a sudden, this is legitimate. But then the Continental Army starts to suffer defeat after defeat, and then in particularly brutal winter. And the army is less than half of its original size. Their weaponry is rusting. They don't have shoes. They don't have the morale. And they know that they're eating their shoe leather to just survive. And they know that when it comes to spring thaw, that all this is just they're going to survive the winter, and the what's it called they'll get, the reward they'll get for surviving the winter is that in the first spring thaw, the fresh British troops are going to come and just basically mop up. This is what they have to look forward to. So there they are. All of a sudden, somebody comes, the savior comes rolling through, comes into camp on a sleigh led by 10 horses. This larger-than-life personality. It's remarkable is that he wasn't particularly large. But he had a personality that made him larger than life. Baron von Steuben. And he turns it all around. Now, how? How does he turn this all around? And say, you can imagine these people are at the nadir, they're at the lowest point of their morale. They are and they are barely hanging on. They are white knuckling it. What is it that this von Steuben can do to really, to a certain degree, turn this around? And you would assume he would come in. And like what we're told in today's society, words of validation and empowerment and support and make them feel great about themselves. And you guys are it. You're the best. You're the you're the superhero, right? We're all superheroes. We all wear capes and all this kind of language that you hear today, right? Because today in today's society, everybody's saying that we have a mental health crisis. What has to happen is you need to hear from everybody, from television, from the to all the all motivational speakers, to your parents, to your teachers. They need to tell you how great you are and how perfect you are, and no matter what it is, you are the best. And right, and that's going to cure all the mental health illness. What's remarkable is that it seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. So what does Van Steuben do? He comes in and he starts yelling at them. He starts yelling at them. And he says, what kind of business is this? What kind of lackadaisical army is this? Look at your shoes. Look at your boots. Look at your uniforms. Look at your guns. He says, clean those up. Tuck yourselves in. Get those boots up. Start marching. Let's going drilling. And he becomes the first American drill sergeant. And he starts drilling these soldiers. He gets them up earlier, and he starts putting them through the paces, and he curses like a drunken sailor, or like an aristocratic Prussian who comes across the world just to whip an army into shape. And he is truly
Wait, he wasn't American?
no, no.
And they
He
just
came
accepted
over from
him.
Europe. He came over from Europe just to do this. So did they accept it? What was their response to this guy who, as with everything that just comes and starts tearing them a new one?
We'll show you.
They loved him.
We'll show you.
He was beloved. He was beloved by the military.
That's fair.
In fact, he was incredibly successful in whipping them into shape. Sudi, are you saying something? Or is that background? I see that it's
Oh, I'm
highlighted.
sorry. That's
No,
Alan. I'll
no,
turn it off.
Yeah, just
no,
mute.
don't turn it off. There's a lot by me, this background noise, and I see that I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything. No, by all means, don't turn it off. I'm just saying by
Okay.
me, this background noise, and I don't want to make the volume of this too loud because I don't want to broadcast to the whole restaurant. Although you're all
It
so
wouldn't
smart,
hurt.
everybody should be.
Right. Right.
Not a bad idea.
Right. Look, you're all going to be broadcast on YouTube anyway, so you might as well get
Okay.
But anyways, okay, back to the point. And what happens? Summer thaw, right, or the spring thaw, and the British army comes, and they really think they're just doing mop-up duty, and they find a army, a disciplined, prepared, trained, a committed army with confidence and strength that starts whipping their tuchus. In a very real way, you could say that the divine providence, that many of the different things that happened throughout the Revolutionary War, that this fellow, this first drill sergeant, and it was his approach that has since been adopted in the American military. And it's remarkable that we see the same results, that for the most part, the drill sergeant in any of these places ends up becoming a beloved father figure, mentor almost to all these soldiers, even as the job of the drill sergeant is to make them uncomfortable and to work them hard and to not let them rest and to kind of cut them down on the way to building them up. And this is an important message in today's society. There is nothing wrong, and then obviously we're going to point out something on the other end of this. There's nothing wrong In fact, not only is there nothing wrong, it is entirely healthy to dish out rebuke. And not only constructive, but necessary criticism. And society's allergy to this today is one of the greatest problems of our society. That people are allergic to hearing that they may not be right and they may not be perfect. And maybe there's a lot of work that they got to do. But it's interesting because here's the thing. Here's the thing. You say, wait a minute. Are you a good guy? Wouldn't a good guy just make somebody feel really good about themselves? No. A good guy makes sure that the person who they're talking to, or in this person, perhaps who they can impact and bring about change, that they don't tell this person what that person wants to hear. They tell the person what the person needs to hear. And there's a difference between telling somebody something flippant that may be positive in nature, but ultimately is denigrating because a person knows you're being disingenuous and you're being dishonest. And honestly, you're being lazy because you're saying, I'll give them I'll throw them a positive, supportive word in that direction. I can then pat myself on the back that I did good here and then walk on. We were talking last week about the power of words, and the Rebbe was entirely positive. But positive does not mean Pollyannish. Positive does not mean rosy. Positive means to see the best possible potential. And sometimes what that means is I'm going to take the time and invest the effort to point out to you where you need something fixed. And the reason I will remain beloved to you is because I'm going to stick around to help you figure out how to fix it. I'm not just going to drop rebuke and walk away. I am going to one of the reasons that Steuben was von Steuben was particularly appreciated and beloved is because he got up and drilled alongside them in the snow. And that was another thing. He didn't sit there in his comfort and his coat and whatever it is. You go run. He ran with them. When you're in the trenches, then you're indicating that the reason I'm telling you this thing is because I truly am invested in your change. I'm not here to just drop negative comments on you and then brush my hands from it. I'm here to help you. And it's going to start with me pointing out what needs to be changed, and then you can count on me to be here to help navigate you through it. This is Moshe Rabbeinu. Yes, Juliana.
I think it would be helpful, though, to also add that von Steuben was specifically tasked to organize the army, the American army, because he had knowledge from his own rich experience. And so that is sometimes missing from the contemporary discourse, that it's not just how you treat people, and which is important and critical. And obviously this excessive praise doesn't work, but people will also respect when, in addition to whatever it is you're saying, there's also something behind it. And that has been eroded because respect has to be earned. And he did earn it. So that also is part of it. And Moses, of course, had earned his respect similarly.
So, yes, and you're very correct to bring that up, that you have to be, that you can only be in this position to do this if you know what you're talking about. Right? And you are in the position. And obviously that takes a certain amount where the person is accepting that you are going to be in this mentor role. What I'm talking about is in the case where you do have what to give, and they have accepted that you are in this mentor role, et cetera, et cetera. But the question is going to be, what is your approach? And I think as a society, we've erred to the side of feeling that the best thing I could be is just my child, or just my students, or just my whatever it is, cheerleader. Oh, you're perfect. You're great. You're just the way you are, right? It's my job to bolster you because I see that you're dealing with a morale issue. I see that you're dealing with a lack of confidence. And so the best thing I can do is just make you feel. But you see, here's the thing: there's a fascinating story with the Baal Shem Tov. We all know that the Baal Shem Tov would go on these mysterious trips, right? And part of it is that there would be a time that he would gather his disciples in a wagon, and he would allow the horses to just go. And the horses would stop at a particular place, and that's where he had to do it. There was a way of, in a sense, at a time when the people were not seeing miracles, right? Of course, he could have been the one to drive them in, but there was time he always wanted to say, no, there are miracles. Miracles do occur. There are things that happen. It was like they needed the injection of that, in a sense, the clear and blatant hand of God. And so, oftentimes, this is the way it would happen. They would sit there, and he would get into a wagon, and he'd be for bringing in the back of the wagon, right? As there's a song called that goes now in the back of the wagon with the Baal Shem Tov. There's like the whole thing. Either way, I like this like riff of like a country tune, like a country ballad in the back of the wagon with the Baal Shem Tov. Either way, anyways. Uh, so one of these stories, he gets in the wagon with his disciples, and they are in fact at the back of the wagon, bringing, doing their thing. And the Baal Shem Tov, in the meantime, is whatever this is, the wagon goes off and it stops. The horses stop in front of a cemetery. Cemetery. The Baal Shem Tov looks out the window. Yep, it's exactly where, not surprised at all where it is. This is exactly whatever it is. He gets out of the wagon with a chisel and a hammer and a bottle of mashke. He walks over to a particular headstone. And in there is like the litany of accolades, fellows, good fellow, family man of this, that, or whatever it was. And there's a certain line. The story doesn't tell us what the line was. But there was a certain line, or an accolade, or whatever it is. And he takes the chisel and the hammer and he cuts out that line.
From the stone.
Which that's it. He doesn't add anything there. He doesn't replace it. Just erases that line. He then pours a keleshik of l'chaim, says l'chaim, drinks it, gets back in the wagon, mission accomplished. And as Hasidim looked and said, what's going on? What's going on? You removed a line of accolade. It said something really positive about this guy. You came in, removed it, and said, and left. L'chaim and left. What's going on? What happened here? Well, Shem Tov, who saw the good in everybody, right? Who truly, who only was positive, etc., traveled to remove a certain. The Baal Shem Tov smiles. This reason he took his disciples on these trips because each one of these was a life lesson, a learning lesson. And he says, imagine. He says, this is what happens. He says, a soul comes to me. It says to the Baal Shem Tov that he cannot have any rest. Cannot have any rest. Why? Because he's in heaven. Heaven is known as Olam HaEmet, right? The world of truth, of utter truth. And his headstone has a lot of accolades, many of which he's earned and is proud of in heaven. And in fact, and one line that his family decided sounds really good, makes them look good. It happened to be something that this person did not particularly excel at or exceed at, or do it particularly well, because a human being is a human being. And it was causing his soul significant unrest that this statement, this untrue statement, is etched in there to be forever a testimony about him. It says that, first of all, it cheapens all the rest of the lines about him. Because if this is invalid, it casts a patina of invalidity to the rest. And it says ultimately, and it says, this is not who I am, right? Juliana, you're amazing, you're wonderful, and you are an NBA caliber basketball player, right? That's right. And part of the problem today, and this goes back to Moshe Rabbeinu, is when we think that we're being supportive by telling somebody they're perfect or whatever it is, what have you, then they don't believe it because deep down they know. So, which means it cheapens everything else you say. And therefore, that is one of the reasons that it's not curing people's anxiety. It's not adding confidence, whatever it is, because then it just shows that words are cheap. So everything else that you've said in support and everything else you've said, whatever it is, or people are saying support, if it's all validity and I'm also perfect and I know that I'm not perfect, but I'm being told that I am perfect, where do I even go? What do I even do? Who's going to be the person who helps me and tells me this is what you need to fix? And this is how you're going to do it. And this is Moshe Rabbeinu giving the Jewish people perhaps their greatest gift. This final message, this long soliloquy of Moshe Rabbeinu. We as a Jewish people devote a fifth, 20% of our existence to these last 30 days of Moshe, right? A fifth of our year. This is one fifth. This is one book of the Torah, of the 5 books that we spend a year covering. So it means one fifth of the Torah, one fifth of the year, of every year. So if we've been around for 3,000 years, so that's 600 years we've devoted to studying Moshe's final 30 days and the message that he's shared with us, all of us, throughout history. Yes, Juliana.
I just wanted to say, really, it's actually even from a point of view of abstraction, even one step further and deeper, and at the core of Judaism, isn't it? That what may constitute a weakness, it needs to be understood from the perspective that we are necessarily human and flawed in some sense of the word, but from a higher point of view, which we should adopt, we should accept who we are and make us as suited as possible to the task for which we are working. And flawed is not according to some blueprint that humans have made. And to tell someone, oh, you're perfect, is actually a disservice, because then if you happen to have problems and you're failing at something, oh my God, instead of saying, oh, I guess I have to do better on this one.
So, Giuliani, you're saying something also incredibly important. It's also something that I wanted to point out. When you are not willing, when you try to cover over some of these blemishes, you're saying 2 things. Number one, that I'm just going to ignore part of who you are. Number 2, I've written off that part. I don't think you can do any better in that, so I might as well not look at it. Because that's, to a certain degree, that's just, we're not even going to go there. And the person is thinking, but that's part of me. That's part of who I am. You would only go there if there's what to work with. Don't write off that part of me. So Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, and this I want to get to, is something that's a key important part. What is one of the most empowering things that most empowering, and when people hear it, like even if they don't know much about the 12-step program, Alcoholics Anonymous, it's actually everybody's moved by this idea, and it's not just about vigilance. When you say whatever it is, and I am an alcoholic, right? You don't say that I was an alcoholic. It's 2 things. Number one, I'm not going to ignore the fact that I have this thing, right? But more importantly, I can be whoever I am, as successful as I am, or whatever it is. Not only when I move past this concern that exists within me, but even as I have it. I am an alcoholic, and I can still be an incredibly productive person in society. I can be a loving parent. I can be a loving spouse, etc., etc. By whitewashing by brushing over. It says, "Are you saying I'm only good if I am not no longer this, or if you're going to ignore this, I can't be good even as I grapple with this issue?" And Moshe is validating the people by saying you have this mistake and you can work on it and you're beloved even as you have it. And this gets to Paula's points. And this is where I wanted to kind of wrap it. Because there could be Moshe's berating them, right? He's sitting there and he's saying, "You guys, when the spies came back in the negative report, you all started crying and moaning and groaning, and then you complained about the mun and whatever it is." You can imagine this one kid in the back of the class raises his hand and says, "Teacher, that's not our class. You're yelling at the wrong class. We're not the ones that graffitied all over the classroom or whatever it is. That was the class before us. We're like, we didn't do it. We didn't do it." And they would be right. This is not the generation that complained. That they're actually the new generation, right? So Moshe, why are you going after us? We didn't do it. We didn't do it. But they don't. And we don't say, "Oh, that was them." We read this as if Moshe's talking to us. Why? Because what? It was only that generation that was susceptible to all those issues. The only difference Moshe is pointing out, the only difference between your generation and that generation is that you can learn from their mistakes. But that's you just as much. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. Be aware of it. Or not that there's nothing inherently wrong with it, but there's nothing deal breaking about it. You're going to enter into the land. Even though you are susceptible to these same matters, these same issues, these are your parents, but you don't think you can have the same issues that your parents had, the same failures potentially that your parents had. But instead of ignoring it or writing off and saying, "We're going to address it. We're going to address it because I have expectations. I believe in you." You know, there's to a point that the Tanya calls anybody, or says that Judaism calls anybody who sins even once a Russia. A Bainity, the guy in the kind of like that evil, that equilibrium, right? That middle ground, right? Is one who doesn't sin at all. You're like, whoa, are you really that mean, Mr. Alter Rebbe? I do one sin, I'm a Russia? Are you that mean? No, I am actually, I believe in you that much. The term Russia here means in an unacceptable state. And what the point is, you have the potential to not sin. Any moment, you don't have to be somebody who sins. So, of course, we sin. Should you be okay with that? Should you be satisfied with that? Should we say, okay, you know what, we're just going to ignore it, and we're only going to look at the good stuff? Or is the Alter Rebbe saying, no, fix that, because you can. So I'm going to bring it up to you, because I'm doing you a disservice if I don't. Again, this being the person, not a random stranger who feels that they need to respond to you on Twitter or what have you. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the person who is, in fact, in a role of teaching, guiding, counseling, mentoring, parenting, etc. I'm not going to do you the disservice of ignoring the fact that you can be better. I will bring it to your attention, but I will do so lovingly. And Moshe Rabbeinu, as we've talked about, does the art of the rebuke. Because even as he does comprehensively go through it, he doesn't do it with sharp fingernails, as it were. He doesn't call any one of them by name. He alludes to them. When Moshe opens up this parsha, it says that he talks to the Jewish people at the plain on the mountain across from the Yam Suf in the white place of encampments and enough gold. And you're like, where is that on the map exactly? The plain that's a mountain that's across from the Yam Suf, across from the Red Sea, that is white and called enough gold. Like, what is going on? Where is this space? The answer is he's not talking. That's not a geographic location. It's an incidental location. He's talking to them about all these things. These were all their great failures. Dizahav, enough gold, is obviously the the golden calf, where we're having too much gold led them astray. The plains is where they fornicated with the daughters of Moab, the plains of Moab. Across with the Yam Suf is where they complained about not having the man, etc., etc. Each one of these is a reference, but Moshe alludes to it rather than beats them over the head with it. I know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. So Moshe's goal is not to cut them off at their knees. Moshe is being constructive. He says, let's talk about it. I don't have to beat you over the head with it, but we do need to talk about it, and we need to talk about it comprehensively, because let's see what we can do to protect against it or fix it, etc., etc. That is support. That is morale building. That is confidence building. Saying, I believe in you. And because I believe in you, I don't accept that this is where you're at. I believe you can do better. And I'm going to push you, and I'm going to drill you, and I'm going to get in the trenches with you. And the Jewish people respond. We respond because every year in this crucial period of the year, we revisit this and spend a full fifth of our lives studying Moshe's words to us about things that we need to fix. And we accept it and we cherish Moshe for it. There's the art of the rebuke and there's the art of receiving the rebuke. Moshe is the artist who gives the rebuke. May we be all those that can handle hearing the shocking news that unless you're Mary Poppins, we're not practically perfect in every way. And we need to work on ourselves. And that's not a problem. That's not a problem. That's actually, as Juliana pointed out, perhaps our greatest strength. That we don't have to write off our mistakes. We address them and we fix them because we have the potential to. And we can all be better than we are. So let's hear it. Let me hear from a person that I love and cherish and that I trust and that I respect, where it is that I can fix, what it is that I can do. And then let me get to it. All right, everybody?
Yes.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you
Shabbat
so
shalom.
much.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, Rabbi.